Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to your fourth Java tutorial where we're going to create a BMI calculator. I'm going to show you how to do this by getting user input, and we're also going to use conditional statements like if statements. So right here I have the formula to calculate a BMI, which if you're not sure what BMI is, it's body mass index. And basically people use it to tell if they're overweight. That's basic use. So yeah, let's get started. If you haven't seen my other videos and you aren't sure what functions or variables are, you should probably watch those first. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a function to actually calculate the BMI. And it's going to take two parameters, which would be the weight and the height. I'm just going to call it calculate here. So we'll do public integer calculate. Then we want to take two parameters, an integer of the weight, then an integer of the height. And we also want to return an integer. Actually, we want to return a double, which is like a decimal. So I'm going to change this from an integer to a double, because the BMI can be a decimal. Okay, so I'm just going to return 0 for now. Before we can use this method, we're going to have to grab user input to actually get the weight and height. So the way to do this is to use something called a scanner. So I'm going to make the main method real fast. And what you do here is we're going to create an instance of a scanner. If you're not sure what an instance is yet, don't worry about it. It shouldn't matter too much in this tutorial. So you do this by calling the type, which is scanner. Type out scanner. Then you have a name, which is called scanner. And then equals new scanner. I have to import it. So if you're using an IDE, it should auto input at the top. If it doesn't, you'll just have to type import Java util scanner here shown at the top. Okay, so the scanner requires one parameter, which is an input stream. I wouldn't worry too much about what an input stream is now, but basically it's just a way to get input, and we're going to use something called system.in. So you just type system.in. Okay, so the way that the scanner works is it'll pause like the app from running and wait for user input. So you can do like scanner dot next line to grab whatever the user types in the next line. So that's what we're gonna do. First thing we're gonna probably do is ask a question like, what is your height? So best way to do that is just print it out. System out print line. What is your height in inches? Then we can save their answer into a variable and just call it height. Or, sorry, we're going string. Actually, it would probably be better, instead of using next line, we'll do next int, because we are passing an integer to our calculate. So we'll have to change this from a string to an integer. So if they don't pass in an integer, it's not gonna grab the height. Like if they pass in a string or something. If they pass in something that can't be parsed to an integer. Okay, so let's test that out, see if it works. I'm gonna run it real fast. Okay. So you see here it asks, what is your height in inches? 74, and it printed out the answer, which was 74. So it's exactly what we wanted. Okay, so now we can just do the exact same thing with their weight. So I'm going to copy this, paste it, weight in pounds, and then we're going to do integer weight equals scanner.next int. And that should print out the weight. So now we have the height and weight, we can use our calculate function. So let's do our double BMI equals calculate, and then we're going to pass in our two variables as parameters. So we have our weight and then our height. We'll do weight equals weight times 703. And then we can just do height equals height times height, since we're squaring it. So then we can just return weight divided by our new height. So this is modifying the values that we passed in, and it's setting it to a new value. So we're setting the weight to a new weight, to the weight that we passed in times 703, and then the height to height times height. So now we can just divide weight divided by height to get our BMI. And let's run that to make sure it worked. We're gonna print out our BMI. I'm gonna run this real fast. Okay, so it's gonna ask, what is your height in inches? 74. What is your weight in pounds? I'm about 225, 90% body fat, so should be, I'll put 225. And so my BMI is 28. So let's say we wanted to add a feature that would tell the user that their BMI is too high. The way we can do that is by comparing their BMI to what the average rate is, and using if statements we can return something that'll tell them if their BMI is good, if it's too high, etc. So let's do that right now. I'm going to create a new function called public static string, and then we'll just do a message. So we want to return a string, which is going to be the text that we're going to print out as soon as we calculate their BMI. Now what we need to pass into our message function is the actual BMI so we can get a message to return. So I'm going to go integer BMI, and we're going to write some if statements to return the correct message based on their BMI. So if you're not sure what an if statement is, basically it's a conditional statement, which means it's either true or false. So here's an example. We can do if BMI is greater than 30, we can return a message. You are way too fat. If their BMI is greater than 30, we're gonna say you are way too fat. Then we can do else, which means if this statement is not true, it'll continue to the else. If it is true, it will not continue. So if BMI is less than 15, we're gonna want to return you need to eat more. And then we can just do another else and return your BMI is perfect. So this will catch anything else, any other BMI, if these two statements above are not true. It'll never go to a different else statement if the above statement is true. Okay, so let's test it out and see what it does. We're going to use our function and pass the BMI into it. We're going to print it out, message, and then pass our BMI into it. Hold on one second. We have to pass in a double, not an integer. Sorry about that. So change that from an integer to a double because our calculate function returns a double here instead of an integer. Okay, so let's print that out. Okay, I've removed the system out prints, but we know what it does. So it's gonna ask height, weight, your BMI is perfect, just as we expected. So let's save this to a variable and print out our actual BMI plus the message. So we can just do BMI plus message BMI. And we'll try that one more time. 74, 225. Oh, I forgot to print it out. Output. Run it again. 74, 225, 28. Your BMI is perfect. I'm going to run it with different numbers. So let's say I'm like 32 inches tall and 500 pounds. That would be insane. So a BMI 343. That would just be ridiculous. Okay. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We have our BMI calculator, which can tell us if our BMI is in trouble or if it's perfect, and calculates it. Not much more to it. Hopefully you learned a bit from this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.